Welcome to the August Cimatron webinar. My name is Rich. Today we will be using version 2024 and we'll be covering 3x deburring. This is a new feature and anyone with the 3x NC module in their license will have this available once they install version 2024. Just a couple of slides to show and then we'll go right into the procedure. To access 3x deburring, first you'll need to create a 3x toolpath. Then under the main selection, it will be local operations, and the sub-selection is 3x deburring. And as for what types of cutters are allowed to be used with this procedure, there are just two, either a ball or a lollipop cutter. So we have a pretty simple part here, but this does show deburring pretty well. So to get started, we'll create a 3x toolpath. And then from there, start a new procedure, local operations, and 3x deburring. So this is a pretty simple page. Probably used to seeing a lot of these, so we won't cover the clearance or the tolerance. And we already have a 1/8" ball cutter here, so we'll just leave that alone. And just jump right into the tool trajectory, the access panel. This is a module works procedure, so if you've used any module works procedures before, this will look familiar. There's just 3 tabs here. This surface path tab is the main tab that you'll be using. There are a couple other features here in the other 2 tabs, and we can look at those here quickly first. In the tool axis control panel, you can see that the procedure is locked in 3-axis and it can't be changed. Down here, there are some additional clearance settings if you need to use those. And it does show a very nice picture here on what the clearance is changing if you need to change those. Over on the link tab, here you can set the retract height. Right now it's set to about 6 inches. The clearance in the procedure itself was set at 3, so you can adjust this down, or there is an automatic option as well. The lead in and lead outs, the radius or the min radius, if you want to add or subtract any of that there, that's here. So now let's go over to the surface path procedure and just take a look at this. We'll get started here in the part surfaces. Part surfaces is one thing that you must do. This does do a couple of different things. It will automatically detect the part edges that can be deburred, as well as protect the part from any collisions from the holder. So my suggestion is to just select all of the part surfaces and then middle mouse. The edge definition. Here there's some settings to change. You can change the minimum angle that it's looking at to detect whether it can do a chamfer, or whether it can do a deburr there or not, as well as limiting any areas by height or by mesh. If you want it just to detect like a mesh area or somewhere in between certain heights. Under the edge detection, there are 2 options here. There's one to exclude curves or include curves. So right now there is nothing selected, so it's going to cut everything that it can from the top down. So if you just wanted to do a small area, just use include curves, and then you're able to select the curves that you want to use. Check surfaces, this is very similar to every other check surface. Right now there's no clamps or anything that needs to be defined as a check surface, so I'm just going to leave those blank. And then if you want to add any additional clearance to those check surfaces. Down under the path parameter, there's two options here. There's constant width or constant depth. And there's a picture here to show what that is doing. The main difference here is with constant width and with depth, it's going to be a little bit different, and I'll show that later, with the amount it's taking off of the edge. So with constant depth, if the angle is small, then it will take off quite a bit more than what it would if it was a larger angle. So the default here is constant width, and we can just leave that alone right here. I'll just change this to 10 thou. Inner corners, if you want to have it trim or relief, the relief will kind of go up, and you can have it do like a loop or like a radius here. I'm just going to leave it on trim. So that will do this here. There's a climb conventional option if you need conventional. Down underneath the number of cuts along the edge, it's either flat or rounded. If it was cutting down the corner there, this is just the amount of cuts it's going to take. So in a 10 thou area, if you use 10 steps, it's going to be a 1 thou step. And rounded, it'll just make it look a lot nicer with more steps. You can choose to spiral closed contour areas, so it'll do this. And then there is a length and overlap extension here. And this does follow the units of the file. So if it's an inch file, use inch numbers here. Okay, those are all the major settings to cover. We will execute this now and then do some questions afterwards. But let's look at some results here now. So no curves were selected, just surfaces, and we'll run this here. And you can see right away we get a red eye. It didn't work. Well, why didn't it work? That goes back to this edge detection. Right now it's set on include curves. So because it's set on include curves and there's no curves included, it's not going to cut anything. By default, this is set to exclude curves. So if you leave it on exclude curves and you just want to see a general result on anything that it can cut, exclude curves setting, just leave that as the default, and with no curves excluded, it's going to cut everything. Okay, and then now we have a rounded deburr, and it's cutting all of the edges there. You can see in this corner here, because it was set to trim corners, it did a nice job there. Just also the 10 thou steps here, or the 1 thou steps, but there's 10 of them there, and it just rounds that corner. And I'm going to just copy this down here. We'll edit this. We'll change this to the flat, and then show the difference here with the constant width and the depth. So copy this, paste it, and then change the bottom one here to constant depth. Just leave them both there on 10 thou and run these here. Throw it into a side view. So change the color here to something different. So you can see the difference here. This is depth, so it's going deeper. And if we look at the results from the stock here, it's close. I don't have it right there, but it's 10 thou. That's under width. So depth, you're going to get a lot deeper path here. You can see that that's quite a bit difference. About 50% here on just the 10 thou with that 90-degree corner. So just be aware of using constant depth or width if you choose to use one of those. And sometimes if you don't want to use multiple passes here, just one pass just to buzz around there and just knock that off, this is a good option too. Throw it in the navigator here. You can see that it just kind of takes a nice path right through there. Well, I think that is pretty much all of the settings to go over. We saw some results there, and I guess now we'll open up to any questions. Yeah, so thanks for watching the webinar. And if you have any questions, type them there in the chat and we will get to them right now. Thanks. One quick thing before we get to questions. Here is our website, Cimatron.com, where you can download version 2024. Go to connect.cimatron.com, and for any tech support questions, you can reach us at support-us@cimatron.com or our phone number there below. Okay, now we will open it up for questions. Thanks again for taking the time to watch our August webinar. Thanks.
Did you want to show, Rich, how we can control the approach and retract?
Yeah. So under the link tab, you're down in the lead in and lead outs. There's a radius. You can change this to something different here.
Oh, that's nice. We have another question about that's somewhat similar to this. Can you do vertical first or horizontal first, or can you change the order?
Yeah, that I don't think you can control. It just
Okay.
kind of does it from the top down in
And
any
then
in any order.
what about different cutters? What kind of cutters are you limited to with this procedure?
This one is just a ball cutter or a lollipop cutter. So no other cutters besides a ball or a lollipop.
Okay, so no chamfer cutters. All right. And another question, how does the detection angle work?
Detection angle. Okay, so there.
I think Andy said climb conventional is the only control.
Oh, yeah, that is in here something different. But the edge detection here under advanced, um, here's the minimum angle that it will detect. So if you have some angles that are 30 degrees and you don't want it to detect any of those, you can change this to something higher than 30, and it'll only look at those edges. So I'm not sure what this angle is here.
Okay.
58 or 30, so that's like 32. So just 45. Let's see, then it leaves off that edge right there.
I see. Now, another question was on the horizontals. It says, how does it run the horizontal path, down or up? Horizontals are, maybe they meant vertical because that would be up and down. Horizontals would be across.
Yeah.
So on the verticals, does it go down or up, or can you control that?
You can't control it. It looks like it just kind of comes down and up there.
Okay.
It there's no and that might be just based off of how it sees it as the climb or conventional, but there's no like top or bottom down. That may be something we could add for an enhancement later.
But yeah, climb and conventional is the only control on that for direction.
Yeah.
So that would give you some control on whether or not it goes, up or down. But another question was, can it do a 3D contour? Which basically it kind of is right there on that where it's going from that angle to the horizontal. But I guess something
Yeah.
more sloping than that, or contoured.
Right.
You don't have to show a demo of it, but if you
Okay.
don't have it,
Yeah, I'll check into that. I'm sure it can, as long as the angle there is within the detection range.
yeah. Andy thinks it can do it, so he said yes.
Okay.
And then what's another question here? Can you set it to not gouge the corner and just run tangent to the corner? So basically just run right on the edge and not go into the edge. Is there any adjustment as to how deep it goes in or shallow?
Well, so this right here is the depth that it's going to go.
Okay. So if you did it at 0, would it trace everything the way it is now? And then
Yeah,
if you put the tool on there, I think, Travis, that's what you were looking for, maybe?
yeah, it looks like it hits it or doesn't go into it at all.
Yeah. You could
Okay.
probably even do positive, I'm guessing, but I don't know. If it allows you to enter a positive value, it would probably work.
Okay.
I'm not sure. why you would need it, but there's possibly always a condition.
Yeah, it looks like it's 0 is the most because
0.
yeah, these numbers are all
Perfect.
positive, but it's going into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that answered his question. Travis said yes, that's what he was looking for. So
Okay.
that's perfect. Can we extend or trim the path? Is a new question.
You can extend it right here. You can see that it'll extend. Trim.
I think it's going to want to cut everything it sees.
Yeah, there's no if it's a if there is like here like you can select these contours or these edges just individually and have it stop. So you could split the edge and it'll stop where it's split there.
Right. And exclude one of the contours.
Yeah.
Like Andy said. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and join us for our next webinar next month around the same time. And thanks for watching today.